The mockery begins. The day began like any other Tuesday morning until the sky turned silver. Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing quantum field equations in her laboratory at the Geneva Institute when her coffee mug started vibrating against her desk. At first, she thought it was construction work from the nearby building project. Then her assistant, Jake Morrison, burst through the door, his face pale as winter snow. "Sarah, you need to see this right now," he said, pointing toward the window. "Look up." She followed his gaze and felt her breath catch in her throat. Massive ships hung in the atmosphere like metallic clouds, their surfaces gleaming with an otherworldly shine. They stretched across the horizon, blocking out portions of the sun and casting strange shadows across the city below. The largest vessel appeared to be the size of Manhattan, suspended impossibly in the air without any visible means of propulsion. "How many are there?" Sarah whispered, pressing her face against the glass. "Reports are coming in from every major city on Earth," Jake replied, his voice shaking. "London, Tokyo, New York, Moscow. They're everywhere. The news is calling it first contact." Sarah's scientific mind immediately began analyzing what she was seeing. The ships showed no exhaust trails, no visible engines, no heat signatures that would indicate conventional propulsion. Whatever technology they possessed was far beyond anything humanity had developed. She grabbed her tablet and began taking notes, documenting every detail she could observe. Within hours, the aliens made their intentions clear. They established communication through every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet simultaneously. The being that appeared on screens worldwide was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer like liquid mercury. Its eyes were large and dark, and when it spoke, its voice carried an accent that sounded both musical and condescending. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am Ambassador Kithra of the Zephyrian Empire. We have come to your world to extend an offer of integration into our galactic civilization. Your planet and its resources have been deemed suitable for incorporation into our domain." President Elena Rodriguez assembled an emergency response team within 6 hours. Sarah found herself selected as one of the scientific advisors, her expertise in quantum physics apparently deemed relevant to understanding alien technology. She sat in the high-security briefing room beneath the Pentagon, surrounded by the world's top military leaders, diplomats, and scientists. Admiral Marcus Torres, a weathered man with steel-gray hair, addressed the assembled group. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're facing an unprecedented situation. These beings claim to represent an empire spanning thousands of star systems. They've agreed to meet with our representatives, but their intentions remain unclear." The first formal meeting took place at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Sarah watched from the observation deck as human diplomats faced the alien delegation. Ambassador Kithra was accompanied by a military commander named Vextar, whose armor seemed to be made of living metal that shifted and moved like liquid. "We understand you wish to learn about our civilization," President Rodriguez said diplomatically. "We would welcome the opportunity for peaceful cultural exchange." Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Cultural exchange implies equality between civilizations. Your species has barely mastered basic space travel. What could you possibly offer that would interest the Zephyrian Empire?" The human delegation began presenting Earth's most advanced achievements. They showed holographic displays of the International Space Station, fusion reactor prototypes, quantum computers, and advanced medical technologies. With each presentation, the aliens became more openly dismissive. "Your fastest spacecraft would serve as emergency escape pods in our society," Vextar commented, examining footage of humanity's newest Mars mission. "And these weapon systems are amusing curiosities. We abandoned projectile-based armaments millennia ago." Sarah felt her jaw clench as she watched the proceedings. The aliens weren't just unimpressed. They were actively mocking human achievements. When Earth's representatives unveiled their most classified project, a prototype plasma defense system, Ambassador Kithra actually turned to whisper something to her companions that caused them all to emit that harsh, laughing sound. Is something amusing about our defensive capabilities? Admiral Torres asked, his voice tight with controlled anger. Forgive us, Kithra replied, though her tone carried no apology. It's simply that children in our educational facilities construct more sophisticated systems as learning exercises. Your technology is quaint. But Sarah wasn't focusing on the insults. Her trained eye was watching something else entirely. When the aliens activated their personal defense shields for demonstration, she noticed a subtle pattern in the energy output. There was a brief fluctuation, a harmonic distortion that lasted only milliseconds before the shield stabilized. It happened every single time they powered up their defensive systems. That evening, Sarah returned to her temporary laboratory setup in the Pentagon basement. She reviewed the recordings she had secretly made during the demonstrations, slowing down the footage to examine the energy signatures frame by frame. "What are you looking for?" Jake asked, joining her at the computer workstation. "Something doesn't add up," Sarah replied, pointing at the energy readings on her screen. "Their technology is incredibly advanced, but look at this pattern. See how their shields activate." Jake leaned closer, studying the data. "It looks pretty standard to me. Energy builds up, shield forms, everything stabilizes." "That's exactly the problem," Sarah said, her excitement growing. "It's too standard. They've perfected one method of energy field generation so completely that they've created a predictable pattern. Every shield, every power source, every defensive system follows the exact same harmonic frequency." She began pulling up her own research files, years of work on quantum field disruption theory that most of her colleagues had dismissed as impractical. The equations filled multiple screens, complex formulas describing how energy fields could be destabilized through precise harmonic interference. "Sarah, you're not seriously thinking what I think you're thinking," Jake said, his eyes widening as he understood her implication. "Their overconfidence is their weakness," she replied, already beginning calculations. "They built everything around one technological paradigm. If we can find the right frequency, we might be able to create a cascade failure in their systems." The next day brought worse news. The Zephyrian Empire revealed their true intentions during a global broadcast. They weren't offering partnership, they were demanding submission. "The evaluation period is complete," Ambassador Kithra announced to the world. "Earth will be integrated into the Zephyrian Empire as a vassal world. Your governments will be dissolved and replaced with imperial administrators. Resistance is futile and will result in the elimination of your species." To demonstrate their power, the alien fleet performed a show of force over the Pacific Ocean. A single ship descended from orbit and fired what appeared to be a simple energy beam at an uninhabited island. The island vanished completely, leaving nothing but empty ocean where solid land had existed moments before. "You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally," Vextar declared. "Any attempt at resistance will be met with the complete destruction of your military forces, followed by systematic elimination of population centers until compliance is achieved." In the emergency session that followed, panic dominated the discussion. Military leaders spoke of impossible odds, diplomats suggested negotiating for better terms, and scientists debated whether any form of resistance was even theoretically possible. Sarah stood up in the middle of the chaos. "I need access to the quantum research facility in Colorado," she said loudly enough to cut through the arguing voices. "And I need a team of engineers who aren't afraid to attempt something that should be impossible." Admiral Torres looked at her skeptically. "Dr. Chen, we've seen what their weapons can do. What could you possibly have in mind?" "A way to turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness," Sarah replied. "But I'll need complete secrecy and unlimited resources. Most importantly, I'll need everyone in this room to trust that sometimes the most primitive civilizations can surprise the most advanced ones." President Rodriguez leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing, Dr. Chen?" Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that what she was about to say would sound like madness to everyone in the room. "I'm proposing we build a weapon that uses their own technology against them." Something they'll never see coming because they're too arrogant to believe we're capable of understanding their systems. The room fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. Finally, Admiral Torres spoke. "How long would you need?" 60 hours, Sarah replied. "Give me 60 hours, and I'll give you a chance to save humanity." As the meeting broke up and plans were hastily made, Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight of the impossible task ahead. She was betting the survival of her entire species on a theory that existed only in her equations and her observations of an energy fluctuation that lasted mere milliseconds. But sometimes, she thought as she gathered her research files, the most important discoveries came from noticing the things that everyone else overlooked. The Zephyrian Empire had made one critical mistake in their arrogant dismissal of human capabilities. They had underestimated the power of scientific curiosity and human determination to survive against impossible odds. The Silent Storm unleashes. The secret facility buried deep within the Colorado mountains had never seen activity like this. Sarah Chen stood in the center of the massive underground laboratory, surrounded by equipment that hummed with barely contained energy. 60 hours had passed since her desperate promise to Admiral Torres, and the device taking shape before her looked nothing like any weapon humanity had ever built. "Final systems check complete," Jake Morrison announced from his position at the control station. "The quantum field generator is stable, harmonic resonance, calibrated to match the Zephyrian frequency patterns, and power coupling is holding steady." Sarah nodded, though exhaustion made her movements feel heavy. They had worked without sleep for the past 2 days, fueled by coffee, determination, and the knowledge that failure meant the end of human civilization. The device they had created stood 12 feet tall, a cylindrical column of advanced electronics and quantum field projectors that she had nicknamed the Silent Storm Protocol. "It doesn't look like much," commented Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the quantum engineer who had volunteered for the project despite having no official clearance. "Are we really betting everything on this?" "Sometimes the most devastating storms begin with the gentlest breeze," Sarah replied, running her hand along the device's smooth surface. "The Zephyrians built their entire civilization around harmonic energy fields. Every system, every weapon, every shield operates on the same fundamental frequency. If we can disrupt that frequency, we create a cascade failure that spreads through their entire fleet," Jake finished, "like pushing over the first domino in an infinite chain." Admiral Torres entered the laboratory, his face grim. "Dr. Chen, we're out of time. The Zephyrian fleet has moved into position around Earth. They're demanding final surrender in the next 6 hours, or they begin systematically destroying major population centers." Sarah felt her stomach clench. "Is the device ready for transport?" "The engineering team has modified a stealth shuttle to carry it," Torres replied. "But getting close enough to their command ship will require someone to volunteer for what amounts to a suicide mission." "I'll go," Sarah said immediately. "It's my design, my theory. If something goes wrong, I'm the only one who might be able to fix it in real time." Jake stepped forward. "Then I'm going with you. You'll need an engineer to manage the power systems." "This isn't a democracy," Torres began, but Sarah cut him off. "Admiral, with respect, this is exactly a democracy. We're fighting for the right of humanity to choose its own path. Jake's right. I'll need technical support, and he knows the system better than anyone except me." 3 hours later, Sarah found herself strapped into the co-pilot seat of a modified military shuttle, the Silent Storm device secured in the cargo bay behind her. The pilot, Captain Maria Santos, was one of the few people who had volunteered for the mission despite knowing the odds of survival. "Stealth systems engage," Captain Santos reported as they lifted off from the hidden facility. "We're invisible to conventional sensors, but if the Zephyrians have detection methods we don't understand." "Then we'll find out together," Sarah replied, watching through the viewport as Earth fell away beneath them. The Zephyrian fleet hung in space like a collection of metallic thunderclouds, their ships forming a perfect spherical formation around the planet. At the center was the massive command vessel, a ship so large it seemed to distort space around itself. The journey to the fleet took 4 hours. Sarah spent the time making final adjustments to the Silent Storm's targeting systems, calibrating the quantum field projectors to account for the vacuum of space. Jake monitored power levels and ran continuous diagnostics, his hands steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. Approaching the perimeter of their formation, Captain Santos announced, "So far, no indication they've detected us." Sarah watched the alien ships grow larger through the viewport. Up close, their technology was even more intimidating. The vessels moved with perfect coordination, their surfaces gleaming with energy patterns that spoke of power beyond human comprehension. For a moment, doubt crept into her mind. How could 3 humans in a modified shuttle hope to defeat an armada that could destroy planets? Then she remembered the energy fluctuation she had observed during the first demonstrations, the tiny imperfection in their otherwise flawless technology. Sometimes the smallest weaknesses could bring down the mightiest structures. "We're being scanned," Captain Santos reported, her voice tight with tension. "Multiple energy beams passing over our hull." Sarah held her breath, knowing that their stealth technology was about to face its ultimate test. The alien scanners probed their ship for long seconds that felt like hours. Finally, the energy beams moved on, apparently dismissing their small vessel as debris or a natural object. "We're through the perimeter," Santos whispered, approaching the command ship now. The Zephyrian flagship filled their viewport, a massive structure that seemed to go on forever in all directions. Sarah could see weapons platforms, hangar bays, and what appeared to be entire cities built into the ship's hull. Millions of beings lived and worked aboard this single vessel, she realized. The scope of their civilization was almost beyond comprehension. There, Jake pointed to a section of the ship where energy readings were particularly intense. "That has to be their primary power core. If we can get the Silent Storm within range." 100 meters, Sarah confirmed, checking her calculations one final time. At that distance, the quantum field should be able to lock onto their harmonic frequency and begin the cascade process. Captain Santos maneuvered their shuttle toward the designated coordinates, using the massive ship's own superstructure to mask their approach. They settled into position behind what appeared to be a communications array, hidden from direct observation, but close enough for their weapon to function. "This is it," Sarah said, activating the Silent Storm protocol. Beginning harmonic analysis and field generation. The device hummed to life in the cargo bay, its sensors reaching out to sample the energy patterns of the Zephyrian ship. Complex calculations flowed across Sarah's screen as the system identified the fundamental frequency that powered their technology. Just as she had theorized, every system aboard the massive vessel operated on variations of the same basic harmonic pattern. "Field generation at 20%, Jake reported. "All systems stable." Sarah watched the readouts with growing excitement. The Silent Storm was working exactly as designed, building a quantum field that resonated in perfect opposition to the Zephyrian energy patterns, increasing to 50%. "Jake, monitor the power coupling carefully. If we overload now." "Power systems holding steady," he confirmed. "The quantum field is beginning to resonate with their primary core." At that moment, alarms began sounding throughout the Zephyrian flagship. Sarah could see lights flickering along the ship's hull as their energy systems experienced the first effects of the harmonic disruption. The cascade had begun. 75% power, Sarah announced, her heart racing. "The field is propagating through their primary systems. Jake, are you seeing this? Their power grid is fluctuating," he reported, staring at his instruments in amazement. "The disruption is spreading faster than we calculated. It's like their entire network is magnifying our signal." Through the viewport, they could see the effects spreading visibly across the command ship. Lights dimmed and flickered, weapon systems powered down, and what appeared to be shield generators went offline one by one. The perfectly coordinated movements of the fleet began to stutter and slow as individual ships lost power. "Full power," Sarah declared, pushing the silent storm to its maximum output. Let's see how they handle a real storm. The quantum field reached its peak intensity, creating a wave of harmonic disruption that spread outward from their position like ripples on a pond. The Zephyrian command ship shuddered, its massive hull groaning as fundamental systems failed throughout the vessel. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the alien ship in red warning light. But the cascade didn't stop there. The disruption spread from ship to ship through the fleet's communication and power-sharing networks, each vessel amplifying the effect before passing it on to the next. Sarah watched in amazement as hundreds of massive warships simply stopped working. Incredible, Jake breathed, watching the display screens. Their interconnected systems are their weakness. The more advanced their network, the faster our disruption spreads through it. Captain Santos pointed through the viewport. Look at that. The largest Zephyrian vessels were beginning to list and drift, their perfect formations dissolving as propulsion systems failed. Smaller ships that had been patrolling the fleet's perimeter were now floating helplessly, their crews apparently unable to restore power to critical systems. Equals. Sarah's communicator crackled to life with Admiral Torres' voice. Dr. Chen, we're seeing massive power fluctuations throughout the alien fleet. What's your status? The silent storm is working beyond our best projections, she replied, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. Their entire fleet is experiencing cascade failures. Admiral, I think we've actually done it. Confirmed from multiple observation points. Torres responded. The alien ships are losing power across the board. Dr. Chen, you and your team may have just saved humanity. But their celebration was interrupted by a new development. The Zephyrian command ship, despite its massive systems failures, was attempting to turn toward their position. Weapon systems that had been offline were slowly coming back online as the aliens implemented emergency protocols. They're trying to target us, Captain Santos reported. Even with their systems failing, they've got enough power left to fire on our position. Sarah made a quick decision. Jake, divert all power from the silent storm to our engines. We've done what we came to do. The cascade is self-sustaining now. Power diverted, Jake confirmed. Captain, we're ready to move. Their shuttle accelerated away from the command ship just as a massive energy beam sliced through the space where they had been hiding. The shot went wide, the alien gunners apparently struggling with failed targeting systems, but it was clear that the Zephyrians weren't giving up without a fight. Multiple ships attempting to pursue, Captain Santos reported as they raced away from the fleet. But their propulsion systems are sporadic. I don't think they can maintain pursuit. Sarah looked back at the alien armada through the rear viewport. The sight was almost surreal. Hundreds of ships that had arrived at Earth in perfect formation were now drifting in random directions, their crews struggling to restore basic functionality. The cascade failure was continuing to spread, affecting systems that the silent storm hadn't even directly targeted. It's beautiful, Jake said quietly. All that arrogance, all that certainty in their technological superiority, and it's undone by a simple harmonic frequency. As they approached Earth's atmosphere, Sarah's communicator came alive with reports from around the globe. The alien demonstrations of power had stopped abruptly. Ships that had been terrorizing major cities were now struggling to maintain altitude. The entire invasion force was in chaos. Admiral Torres' voice came through clearly as they landed at the secret facility. Dr. Chen, I've got reports from every major capital. The alien fleet is in complete disarray. Several ships have actually crashed into the ocean, and the rest are attempting to retreat beyond lunar orbit. Sarah stepped out of the shuttle, her legs shaky from exhaustion and adrenaline. The cascade will continue to affect any system that uses their harmonic frequencies. They'll need to completely rebuild their technology from the ground up to counter it. And that, Jake added with a grin, is something their arrogance won't let them admit they need to do. 3 days later, Ambassador Kithra appeared on global television for the final time. Her previous confidence was gone, replaced by barely controlled rage and what might have been fear. The Zephyrian Empire withdraws from Earth space. She announced through gritted teeth, "Your species has proven resourceful. We will not return." As the alien fleet limped away from Earth, their perfect formations replaced by the chaotic movements of ships running on backup power, Sarah stood in her laboratory reviewing the data from their mission. The Silent Storm Protocol had worked better than her wildest projections, proving that sometimes the most sophisticated technology could be defeated by understanding its fundamental principles. Jake joined her at the window, where they could see the last of the alien ships disappearing beyond the moon. "So what's next for humanity's newest hero?" Sarah smiled, already turning back to her equations. "We keep learning, keep discovering, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Because now we know that no matter how advanced a civilization becomes, there's always someone out there who might just find a way to surprise them." The story of Earth's victory over the Zephyrian Empire would be told for generations, but Sarah knew the most important lesson wasn't about the weapon they had built. It was about the power of human curiosity, ingenuity, and the willingness to look for solutions in places where others saw only problems. Sometimes, she reflected, the gentlest storm could indeed change the course of history.